what the smart city plan is for, it's creating a prison. It's creating an open air prison that's going to take the data that we generate through every single activity that we engage in, and it's going to link it to a digital ID, blockchain-based digital identity. It's going to record it to a permanent ledger, and it's going to come up with a social credit score for all of us. And that social credit score is going to become the basis of your ability to access certain privileges that we have heretofore enjoyed freely, as we should, but now they're going to be off limits unless you behave in accordance with an ideological program.
Like I said, I am thrilled to see this room packed out, and I hope that those of you who do not come to 912 regularly, I hope that you will consider coming back next month and the month after that and the month after that. We try to have dynamic speakers that talk about things that are going on here in the Tulsa area, here in the state of Oklahoma, that we as citizens need to be aware of, not just to identify the problems, but to look for how we can, from the grassroots, stand up and take back what is being stolen from us. So to that end, we contacted Julianne Romanello, who is, I've known Julianne, how long is it now? About 4 or 5 years, I guess, something like that. I got a call one day and she said, another friend of ours said, we want you to come to this meeting over at this gal's house. She's going to be talking about some stuff that I think you'll really be interested in. I'm like, well, what? And they're like, well, Agenda 21 and New World Order and, vaccines and all this. Okay, I'll come over. Sounds interesting. And I was just blown away by the wealth of knowledge that Julianne brings to the table. She's one of these people who just sees connections. She sees you've seen those boards in the detective movies, right? The string diagrams where they have all the strings going from this thing to that thing and the other thing. She's that person. She sits down and just walks through life and sees what's going on around us in our community and connects it to what's going on a grandiose scale. That the New World Order is alive and well here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That there are bad actors in this city, in this community, and statewide who are trying to take over our freedoms, trying to steal what is rightfully ours, and doing it right under our noses and telling us that they're doing it for our benefit. This is what Tulsa needs. This is what will make Tulsa competitive in the new world market. And the reality is they don't care about us. They want to profit off of us. And the more that we are aware, the more that we see these things, the more that we can then stand up and come against them. Julianne Romanello, I should say Dr. Romanello, is also a mother of 4 kiddos. Her husband actually works for a client of mine. He's in the oil and gas pipeline business in IT, correct? He's in business management. Okay. I obviously didn't work with him when I was there at the pipeline, but they're Tulsans. They live here in this community. They're one of us. And Julianne has taught at various colleges and universities, most recently at TU, and that's where she began to see some of these horrible things that are going on behind the scenes. So if you would please give a warm welcome to Julianne Romanello, and let's hear what she has to instruct us on tonight.
Okay, well, I would like to thank the 9112 Project for having me here. I would like to thank all of you for coming. This is so encouraging to see a full room and to see Tulsans who care about our community, people from the region. I know there's some people who are not even from Tulsa, they're from other places in the state. And, at the end of my talk about the New World Economic Order, I'm going to try to offer some ideas about how we can fight this thing. And one strategy that I keep coming back to. Can you hear me? You still can't hear me. Is that we really need to unite as a state, because as we'll see, The threat to our Constitution is grave. We're in worse trouble than most people even realize. And one of the strategies that the resetters, that's a term that I use to designate the people who are doing the social engineering program, is a catch-all phrase, the resetters, that are promoting the Great Reset. They want to destroy state governments and move to a regional model, and this is Agenda 21. And the booklet that Laura has is an excellent booklet. This still isn't on, is it?
No, it's not working.
Okay. So I highly recommend getting the booklet. I've looked it over, and I would print it, and I tried to buy a pack. It's that good to distribute. So thank you for bringing that up.
Can we buy them, or how do we get them?
I got about 15 of them today. I do have a few more. So
They are worth every penny. It's excellent. Freedom, Santa Cruz. Yep.
Oh, okay. So Julianne, is there going to be some kind of follow-up that we can find notes about this, or find
Yes.
Can we have that information there on how to get that?
Yes.
And we'll have the video of tonight on our website, on the 912 website and the Facebook page, so all this information will be available to you there.
Yeah, and I'll need to tidy up the slides and include links to some of the PDF documents. So once I get that done, it takes more time than I anticipate always. But I'll have a tidied up version of this PowerPoint that we can post. Okay. So before we dig in, I want to, whoops.
Speak the microphone when you're touching it, it's turning it off.
Is it?
Because it's working now.
It's working now.
That is so.
I really think it's one you have attached to your body.
Maybe, oh, look, okay.
All right.
Okay, so as I talk about some of this very technical and sometimes boring information, I'm going to pass around Tulsa's Smart City Plan. This is from 2016. A new strategy that I have whenever I'm able to make a community meeting is just simply to ask whoever is the speaker, whether it's a city councilor. I just did this with Phil Lakin not too long ago at my homeowners association meeting. Or it could be the mayor or anyone who is in a position of authority to take away our freedoms. I mean, they're not really, but they're doing it. I like to print this off. You can find it on the web. This is from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And I simply ask, I know that we have a smart city plan that is on file with the U.S. Department of Transportation from 2016. I've noticed the surveillance infrastructure going in and our traffic signals. Could you give me a status update about the implementation of the Smart City Plan? And you'll watch your city councilor squirm and tell you that you're crazy and that they're not trying to do away with personal vehicles and that it is a ludicrous proposal that they're trying to get rid of driving lanes and parking spaces downtown, which they absolutely are doing. Okay? And then you have this document printed, and while your city councilor might squirm, I can guarantee you that your neighbors at the meeting will come up and ask you about it. Okay, so I'm going to pass it around, and I have a few, if you don't want to look at it, there's no pressure. But if you do want to see that the things that I'm talking about are real, they're available on the web. A Google search, I don't use the dark web. It's all right here. So what the Smart City Plan is for, it's creating a prison. It's creating an open air prison that's going to take the data that we generate through every single activity that we engage in, and it's going to link it to a digital ID, blockchain based digital identity. It's going to record it to a permanent ledger, and it's going to come up with a social credit score for all of us. And that social credit score is going to become the basis of your ability to access certain privileges that we have heretofore enjoyed freely, as we should, but now they're going to be off limits unless you behave in accordance with an ideological program, okay? And it happens to be a leftist woke program, although the right is not innocent, okay? But the moral program of it, the ideological program, generally speaking, is sort of left-leaning. So if you do not espouse those values, if you don't demonstrate those values of the UN Sustainable Development Goals and all the buzzwords, you will not be allowed to use a turnpike, okay? You will not be allowed to attend a civic gathering, a fireworks display. You will not be allowed to purchase more than X amount of bags of chips. I love chips. They're not very healthy. And as if you purchase things with your credit card or soon to be, just your chip, or whatever it is, they're going to use facial recognition. If you buy the wavy Lays instead of the veggie straws, your health insurance company is going to know about it, and your premiums are going to go up. Okay, and then your employer is going to look at you as a risk to their ESG scores, their corporate ESG scores. It is worse than you ever imagined. But we'll leave on a hopeful note. I just think it's very important to be realistic. So the title of my talk is Measured, Managed, and Monetized. And I took a sort of background shot from a World Economic Forum article that says, what gets measured gets managed. Oh, it sounds just like regular corporate speak, right? So what I want to show, one of my goals, is to show you that the corporate speak is sinister. It is under the corporate speak and the business language that this sinister program of controlling people's minds, their bodies, their hearts, everything, it's coming through this language. And I think that the reason for that is because Americans generally are, we sort of celebrate business. We celebrate that independent spirit. We understand that, doing well economically is important for everyone on a common sense level. Okay, and because of our historical foundations, there's just an ideal about the potential of business to do good in the world, right? I mean, just as a sort of heuristic. So I think that has been used against us. It is being used against us, and it has really caught most Americans off guard. And I just want to let you know that I did not know any of this until 2019 when I witnessed the restructure of the University of Tulsa. I had no clue. So, I always want to just sort of extend and offer like a sort of sense of grace to people who are just finding this out and say, it's okay, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we had known about it before, but it's not too late yet. My friend from Norway has this wonderful it's like a Norwegian proverb that's like, it's never too late to stop running toward the edge of a cliff. until you're actually off. So if we learn that corporate speak and what it means, because the people who are doing this are not bright people. They're not creative people. They use the same terms, the same playbook, the same toolkit over and over and over again. So I'm not brilliant. I'm just good at recognizing patterns. And my dad was an intelligence officer in the Air Force, so maybe it runs in the genes. I don't know. He always told me that the government was up to no good. And I didn't believe him. Okay. So we'll look at how this language of corporate prosperity, of innovation, of quality jobs, workforce development, economic development, all these are buzzwords. I can just rattle them off. How that is disguising this sinister agenda to put us all in an open-air prison that's governed by social credit scores. And it is actually happening, and Tulsa is a central location in the overall plan. Why that is, I'm always curious about it. I think that I think this is a place of a great spiritual warfare, honestly. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I'm actually from Arkansas. But I think this is like a place of spiritual warfare. And then there's also the fact that we have routes for distribution of goods. We have the Port of Catoosa. We're centrally located in the U.S. There's a lot of old oil money here that is concentrated in a few hands of designing people who want to who take pleasure in the idea of breaking down the United States and enslaving its people. And that is actually what this is about. Okay, but Tulsa is a key place. So we're going to look at how the project to measure and to manage, which seems like good business sense, it's actually going to be the chains that bind us. How do I go? Okay. I don't know if you all can see this. So what we're going to talk about is inclusive capitalism. And I have some little videos that I made in the evening, at night, after my kids were in bed, about going through the framework for inclusive capitalism. And this, I'll also pass it around for your reading pleasure. This is the plan to enslave all of us. Actually, I should say, here, we'll go on this side. This is really the corporate plan, because there's going to be a public sector plan, and that works through pay for success financing of public social services. And then there's going to be a sort of corporate model that works through professional development. And if you work for a corporation, you are going to be measured, managed, and manipulated as human capital. Because what Agenda 21 wants to do, and I'm so glad that you all know about it, it wants to come up with a way to grow the economy without using up limited resources. Now, the whole thing's a lie, right? We know that. But just using their own assumptions and principles and their white papers, what they want to do is find a way to make economic growth possible without using up the planet's resources. So how do you do that?
You buy and sell people.
You buy and sell people, and you deal in the business of changing them, because you can change human beings over and over again. So if you work at a corporation, if you have a child or a brother or a sister, anyone you know who has a corporate job, and the corporations are buying up everything. So this is if you look at Goldman Sachs, they have webinars where they tell you this. They say, COVID has accelerated trends that were already underway. That's a buzz phrase that they use. COVID accelerated these things. Oh, no, this is controlled demolition. Okay, but it says, where was I going? Oh, about the consolidation. Okay, so you have Goldman Sachs saying, we have got to the winners after COVID. COVID laid bare everyone's vulnerabilities. And so the only firms that were able to do well were those that had a large global distributorship or clientele, and they had digital tools available to them so that they could easily pivot to work from home, okay? They could easily pivot toward e-commerce and online, purchasing and, automated delivery of your products. And let me tell you, Canoe and the MAPE, American Industrial Park, yes. And George Kaiser and all of the apps and technologies that run the electric vehicles, they are for our imprisonment. And they are running pilot programs here. We're going to see driverless cars here in Tulsa before many other cities do. You can look at the Smart City Plan. They've been setting up roads and infrastructure on our thoroughfares that are easy to navigate for autonomous vehicles. They're going to take away everyone's cars. They're going to do it through licensing. They're going to do it through, just taking away your parking, your access, all of that, right? And they're going to say, just like Rhonda was mentioning about the poll workers being sick, they're going to say, oh, it's because everyone wants to stay home because of COVID. So they want the online delivery, and they don't want a FedEx driver to come anywhere near their house because, they're going to get sick and die. No, it's not. That's not true, but that's what they say, right, Claudia? They've come up with this whacked out, lie, and people believe it. But all of that, all of that is to say that Goldman Sachs, the large bankers, the large investors, and George Kaiser is in all of it. He's in everything. He's like the 34th richest man in the nation, and he's an evil guy. And he's not the only one here, but I focus on him because he keeps me too busy, He's invested in all of it. So all the JP Morgan, the Goldman Sachs, the State Street, BlackRock, everyone, the people who are coming out and saying that every corporation, is going to be consolidated. Every industry is going to be consolidated. These guys are here. So mom and pop businesses have no chance but to comply with the ESG requirements, that's corporate social credit scoring, that are mandated by those large corporate players. So if you work for a large corporation, if you know someone who does, or a small one that's going to be bought up or forced out of business, then you have an interest in fighting this. And they're going after the kids. That's why the school board is in, I know, right? That's why this school board fight here in Tulsa is so important. My kids go to parochial school. Oops, sorry. Okay, but I've gone to several TPS meetings, and I've tried to help out TPS as much as I can because I care about kids, and because there are 36,000, I don't remember the exact number, children that are going to be measured and managed. For what? For this pipeline of human capital. They're going to become sort of wards of the corporations that want to drive economic growth without using up planetary resources. So again, just to sort of circle back, how do you do that? How do you grow the economy? Well, you attach a profit potential to the business of manipulating people's beliefs and attitudes. So, you know, I mean, I always hated that corporate BS. And I couldn't do it. My husband, God bless him, does it to pay for our life, you know? But if you can imagine going through, you know, some of the woke, and again, when I say that, it's just easy to sort of criticize that, but it comes on the right too. If you can imagine having to go through the woke professional development training over and over and over again, that's where we're headed. Because with automation, with the 4IR, that's what I have up here, like the inclusive capitalism is the economic order of the 21st century. Why do we have it? Well, there are several different contributing factors that explain this growth in inclusive capitalism and this measure, manage, monetize model. One of those is the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is this insane project of creating a convergence between the biological, digital, physical aspects of our lives. All the technology. It's really a transhumanist program, and it's about creating alternative worlds so that these wackos can run their simulation games and make big bets on what's actually going to happen. So it's like fantasy football.
But you're the player?
But we're the players, right? And they get their stats from the Smart City Internet of Things. Their stats about us.
Is this why they're trying so hard to deny the existence of women and men as different beings and all
Oh, yeah.
that stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one, I think it's a satanic agenda because really this goes to very dark spiritual forces. But also it's preparing for robot rights, for transhumanism, and to where we're just called humans and you're sort of put on parity with robots because the corporations, I've got a couple, I don't know actually if I put them in here, some slides where it says robots, I think I have it. Robots don't have cultural hang-ups. Robots don't get sick. Robots don't complain. Robots always do the right thing. So the corporations want the robots to do the work. And they actually have all of this technology that at least I had no clue about its existence. But they have it waiting in the wings, and they're just waiting for the right excuse to roll it out.
They've already done it at Walmart. That's where
Yes.
cashiers went away.
Yes. I mean, they're getting rid of all of the jobs that can be automated will be. And they already have, yeah. Do what? I'm sorry?
The customers didn't ask for that.
No. But they don't care because really the people who are behind this have so much money that they don't even care about our pittance that we pay to go buy our toilet paper and whatever it is. Mm-hmm.
This morning on the radio, they were saying the exact same thing. Because of COVID, robots have come in and had to do, and they defined 5 different jobs that the robots were doing while people were at home.
Yes. So see, I mean, I just listened to all of this in horror because they did it with healthcare. They have had healthcare robots, senior care, elderly care robots, just waiting in the wings. But human beings with hearts and souls and minds and intellects don't want them around. I mean, my kids are afraid of seeing the little robots, delivery bots. And I think that is a natural human response. And so that is why you have to have this plan and this larger narrative to justify the rollout of 4IR technology. You know, I mean, they want to do online learning, right? That's what the fight in the public schools. They want every kid on a personalized learning plan. Oh, to be inclusive. No, it's not to be inclusive. It is to track and trace and develop a human capital score and then manipulate that child for the needs of business and industry. And you can look at the One Oklahoma plan. It was in 2016. You can look at the 2019 Oklahoma State Regents plan on the future of higher education. The Oklahoma State Regents are fully behind this. There is not a university in Oklahoma that is not promoting the 4IR. It was in TU's strategic plan. There is not a university in Oklahoma, public or private, that is not promoting globalism.
ORU is doing it too? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Another thing, Julianne, today at the school board meeting, that was one of the agenda items that they voted on was the life plan program, and they were bragging about starting it in the 6th grade.
They're not even hiding it. And it's George Kaiser, and it's the Schusterman Foundation, and it's Steve Ballmer, and it's Walt,
and they just
everyone.
had a big meeting in Bentonville, Arkansas, a few months ago, and it's going to be coming right here. They're taking back. It's called Take Over the Heartland.
Yeah, well, this. Yeah.
Oh, I meet up with this. You know all about it. You know I can't stand it.
It really, and so yeah, I mean, and the Walmart money goes. There's a TU Walmart connection, you know, and yeah, I mean, it's we're in so deep. It's just nuts. So the 4IR is going to one of the Goldman Sachs I think it was Goldman Sachs, or maybe it was the White House Council on Inclusive Capitalism. One of their webinars, it says 88 million Americans are at risk for losing their jobs to 4IR technology. 88 million. They know it's going to happen. They know that no one's going to have a job. That's why you need the surveillance, okay? Because when everyone is out of work and desperate, you have to control them, okay? But they also want to make money off of us too. Not just control, but they want to make money off of you. So they're going to track your activities and, oh, did you recycle that glass bottle, or did you drop it and left it there, you know? Did you buy something to eat at Kathy Taylor's nice foodie place that put Oklahoma farmers out of business? Or did you make a worse choice? And the way that like the blockchain technology, all of the technology is seamless, integrated, frictionless. Those are all buzzwords. With their data sharing agreements, our state was Linda Murphy was telling me that our state was one of the first to come up with these longitudinal data plans. And we have the OneNet, which is a very high level, like fiber optic and internet network that really helps to explain that logo, the city motto that we have, a new kind of energy. Did you ever think about that? They're getting away from oil and gas. They're moving to electric and data. Data is the new oil.
Can I say one other thing?
Yeah.
Yesterday on the news, I was listening, and they were talking about our inflation. And of course, our inflation they're saying is 9.1%. But in listening to some of the economists, one of the ways that they say that the only way that we're going to be able to flip this is to have less people working. I mean, they literally came out and said that. So when Julianne just mentioned this about the goal is to get rid of the jobs so that they can start bringing others in, that was one of the very points that was made on the radio about jobs and how for our economy to get better, we're going to have less people working.
So they want the Great Resignation. That is not workers, I don't think. I mean, you've heard of the Great Resignation. There are all of these greats, the Great Narrative, the Great Reset, the Great Resignation. But, you know, all of this is sort of, it's by design. They want people to quit their jobs. They want to make it miserable for you to work. They want to threaten you with vaccines and humiliating masks, and then, you know, just the dissatisfaction that comes from being on a computer doing professional development all day. I mean, that would really, I think that's a fate worse than hell. You know, I failed once.
I don't know, she just nudged him, so I'm thinking he may have that job.
Oh. You know, you want to do real work. I think I'm sort of an optimist, right? So I think most people want to do genuine work. They want to contribute, but you're held back by a lot of these different programs. That's not to say that there aren't good modules and that you can't learn things, but what's going to happen eventually, where this is going, if you really want to be scared, is that you're going to do immersive experiences with VR, kind of like the Hardesty Center is doing, like all of our museums are doing, where they're offering immersive experiences to make you feel the pain that others have felt in their lives, so that you will be more empathetic.
The Neuralink.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you address, I'm sure you're aware of Clear, which is the new thing at the airports.
Is that, okay, now you're going to have to remind me, because I'm thinking of a program that I saw in California that isn't it a digital identity program? Yeah.
I think that's the introduction to...
Oh, yeah. And like the TSA that was part of it, and the Real ID.
Clear.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit behind, you know, just on where Oklahoma is, but yes, it's coming up with a national network, a blockchain-based, decentralized network for storing all of your credentials. And it's going to be tied to biometrics, you know, and facial recognition. I don't know when this chip is going to come out, or if they're just sort of playing with people about that, because really the cameras are so fine-tuned, especially after people were wearing masks, and training the cameras to identify you just on the basis of your eyes, then they don't even need that technology. They'll just use your face, and that is less you know, alarming to people because we're so used to the cameras.
We have a question over here, but then go ahead and get going.
I know, I've got it. So
we'll save questions for the end, but George, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you.
Real quick.
You've touched on the major player in all this several times, George Kaiser.
Yeah.
And why Tulsa is the nexus for much of what is happening. There's a local journalist who wrote a scholarly article a couple of years ago about George Kaiser and the tentacles of his octopus, and it was called The Kaiser System.
Yes.
By Michael Mason. Mm-hmm. It's on the internet. You ought to read it, because
yes,
it connects a lot of the dots.
It's very good. I think Michael Mason and I would disagree about how much information or how knowledgeable the people in the system are. Well, like Michael is a little bit more generous than I am about that. I think that they know.
Yeah, the people who worked for his tentacles were terrified to be interviewed by him.
Yeah.
They were scared to death.
Yeah.
And Kaiser wouldn't submit to an interview, you know. It's all for the children, you know, is what he's interested in, allegedly. But it's The Kaiser System. It's on the internet by Michael Mason.
Yeah, it's a very good article.
Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to hold questions for now. And the reason I'm using the microphone is for the camera. So it doesn't make my voice any louder, I know. So let's let Julianne finish her presentation, and then we'll do questions afterwards, okay? Thanks.
See, I was a seminar teacher. I was never a lecturer, so then I just like to take questions, and I've got to be a little bit better here. Okay, so let me just... You know, you've probably, how do I go backwards?
Should be able to use the arrow keys.
Backspace will take.
Okay, so what's important, I think, if we're going to unpack the corporate speak, what we need to know is that inclusive capitalism is a new social compact, and it says it on the framework there, based on the principles of stakeholder capitalism. Now, if you're in the corporate world, and I had to learn all of this, but it's very easy to learn, you'll know that there is a change in theory from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. And shareholder capitalism is basically just the idea that corporations have a fiduciary duty to the people who own the company to protect the business and their interests in it, their investments in it. Okay? So there are legal remedies available to stockholders whose corporate boards have destroyed a business, for example. Okay, so if you're an oil and gas company and you decide that you're going to get rid of your oil and gas infrastructure and you're going to start pursuing electric, or you're just going to, do some community service, then the shareholders, the stockholders in that company could sue the board for violation of their fiduciary duty, right? And it's just the idea that corporations exist to maximize the wealth of their owners, okay? We're moving away from that towards stakeholder capitalism, towards stakeholder capitalism. And that is this push by the ultra elites to value a corporation's contributions to society in addition to its like financial earnings and hard physical concrete assets. So stakeholder capitalism is going to say a corporate value is more than just financials. It's more than just how well you do a business, and you're not only responsible to equity owners in your company, every business has a fiduciary duty to protect the society at large. Okay, now many of us might not be paying attention to it, but that is a huge transition, because we're going to see that just like with the vaccine mandates, the mask mandates, all of that, who really did the dirty work of enforcing? It was the businesses. It was private businesses, corporations. And they used their economic power and their social branding and, and just the hold that they have over our lives to say, you can't come in. And really, we don't have the resources, alone, each one of us, to fight off a big corporation that says you can't come in. And they get to blame it on the health department and say, oh, it's not us. But you can see how powerful these corporations have become, and what they're going to do is they're going to enforce the woke ideology, and they're going to be the ones that usher in a new age of communitarianism, which is
you have to turn off airplane mode.
It's dead set. Communitarianism this is the reinvention of American society. Nikki Rapana's work is really important. She recently passed away. This is about balancing individual rights with the needs of the community. So everything that David mentioned is going the way of the dodo. Balancing individual rights versus the needs of the community. Who's going to make that decision? It's not going to be voters. It's not going to be judges. It's not even going to be politicians. It's going to be the corporations. And then they're also going to steal your money if you have any invested after the end of this catastrophe. They're going to steal your money by using your investments in those corporations to do the public benefit work of promoting ESG goals, that's the UN Sustainable Development Goals, wokeism, throughout the community at large. And you will have no recourse to it if they get their way. The United States of America, God bless this country, is the only country where stockholders have some protection. You can look at the WEF white papers. I think this is a really big deal that people aren't talking about. What the resetters want to do is change the legal definition of what a corporation is, so that they basically want to codify stakeholder capitalism into our law, so that these giant companies that have all known what they're going to do, so that they can go out and use the equity investments of Americans and other people throughout the whole world to do this ideological programming and indoctrination. They're going to become public benefit corporations, and they can count their contributions to society as part of their balance sheet when they do that. Okay, so stakeholder capitalism is, everyone has a stake in everyone else's life. What you do matters, and it affects me, like the butterfly effect. Okay, that's what it's based on. Agenda 21, it's an ecosystems mindset. That's a buzzword. It is interconnectedness, collaboration, everything touches everything else. Equity, 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 equity. What you do impacts me. What I do impacts you. So we all have to be controlled so that everyone feels fine and no one has no one gets more than another, okay? So I have at the bottom, stakeholder capitalism aims to generate value rather than profits. And you can see this if you look at businesses today, and oh goodness, I gotta wrap this up. You know how businesses have been encouraging employees to go volunteer with United Way. What does that do? I mean, I would have thought that's a nice idea because we care about each other, right? And it's kind of nice to do it on the clock. It's like, no. Well, I was very naive. But what it's actually doing is it's stealing money from companies, and it's stealing people and time and productivity from companies, and it is pushing it toward this private sector, or this private sort of non-profit sector to promote wokeism and social engineering. And, you know, the people who work at nonprofits, I don't think everyone is aware of what's going on. And there are many, many good people who have good motives who work to serve, you know, members of our community who are struggling. Okay, so I don't want to imply anything about that. I mean, I volunteered at a nonprofit for a while, and I loved it. It was so nice. But when you send employees to do it, they develop these relationships, and especially if you know who runs the nonprofits in our community, it's all George Kaiser. They will introduce ideas, language, branding, values to the employees of a business that they then take back, okay? And it's called a collective impact strategy. It's about manipulating language, coming up with shared measurements, and just brainwashing people little by little, okay? But so just think, your Fridays where you wear red for the United Way, that's gonna be business all the time. You're either gonna be doing your computer professional development, or you're gonna be volunteering. And anyone who is of retirement age, you're not getting out of this. You're gonna be sent back to the volunteer ranks. And you say, oh, Social Security, Medicare. Oh no, they already have a plan to get rid of that, okay? Because Agenda 21 is about balancing inputs with outputs, a circular economy, a feedback loop. It's, you know, what goes in must come out. So if you're taking resources out, like you're eating, you better be contributing them in some way. And thank the Lord that the World Economic Forum has decided that your kind donations of time at the nursing home or the daycare can be counted toward your allowance of crickets. right? So inclusive capitalism is just it's this stakeholder capitalism idea, but it's the version that gets sold to workers. Okay, so stakeholder capitalism is kind of like addressing the people who have time to volunteer, who have money to invest, the sort of upper middle classes. Inclusive capitalism dresses that up for the workers. And the title of it is A New Compact Among Businesses First, Government Second, and American Workers. Now, this is how I got into this stuff, because I hated hearing students talked about as workers. And I hated hearing them being described as something to be pumped through a pipeline. But that's exactly what this program is. And inclusive capitalism is it gets every company on board with tracking ESG goals. I've got a graphic about this. ESG goals, which are environmental, social, governance goals. In Laura's book, it's equity, economics, and environment. They use the same stuff over and over. And so corporations, are going to get their competitive edge not by developing a better business model or coming up with genuinely new technology, because everything's going to be online and everything's going to be consolidated so that everyone's going to get their products from Amazon. You know, and if someone comes up with a little 3D printed thing in their garage, Amazon's going to buy you out. I mean, or you're going to get licensed out of business or whatever. So when you think about how corporations can increase their bottom line in this new world order, it's really about making sure that their workforce, and this is in the inclusive capitalism documents, that their workforce can be scored and ranked very highly on ESG metrics. Concern for the environment, health goals, wellness, employee wellness, that's a big one. So all the corporations are going to manage your health. And diversity, equity, inclusion. Okay? So just think, corporate value. If individuals have a corporate social credit score, that's their human capital score, so do businesses. Okay? Now, businesses, I mean, unless you're a farmer, unless you're a self-sufficient person right now, which I don't think many of us are, then you would sort of depend on working for someone else, right? I mean, that's the situation we're all in. So, but think, your only options, for outside employment to help feed your family are going to be to work at a corporation where they care about manipulating the ESG profile of their workforce. They're only going to hire people who have been observed, really, womb to tomb. They're only going to hire people who have so many friends of this color, who have this or that religious belief, who have, who are vegans, who, this and that. I mean, and it's going to have a profile for the right as well, okay? You're not going to get a job. No one's going to get a job. That's what I worry about my kids. What are they going to do? Okay? But companies, the only way that they can sort of edge out over their competition is by manipulating the workforce. And that's where the economic growth comes in, that is decoupled from the use of material resources. So you can change people how many times? Oh, today I'm going to make sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion's cool. But then that's going to go bad. And so then they're going to pick out some new goals, and they're just going to keep changing people and making money off of it. And really it's sort of forcing these behaviors. Does it sound so terrible? This is why I never sleep. For 2.5, 3 years, I've never slept. So what is inclusive capitalism? Oh, it sounds so nice. Equality of opportunity, equitable outcomes, fairness across generations, fairness in society. There's a trifecta that we saw roll out with COVID: racial equity, climate change, and public health. They're all lies. Racial equity is just a way to help the social engineers track human capital. They're using this. Okay, and that's not to say that there aren't problems. If you look at Tulsa's north side, they have been targeted. They have been used up and abused. So there are real historical problems between like how different groups of people have been treated. And I think a key aspect of fighting this is for us to acknowledge that those exist, and guess what? We gotta throw all those things behind us and say we care about our kids, we care about rights, and we're going forward together, black, white, brown, whatever, okay? Because they thrive on this racial division. In America, you know, like I said about business, they play on our love of business. They play on the history of racial division. I have more in common with, you know, a black woman who's a mom than I do with some yuppie white philanthropist type, okay? So we've got to focus on those and recognize that, yeah, those things have happened, but just like Hope Valley over here, they're starting all the license plate readers here because these folks are poorer and they have, you know, it's a neighborhood that has a high reputation for crime or reputation for higher crimes. Why? I don't know why. I don't know. I haven't checked into the data, but that's being manipulated to put in this terrible surveillance that's illegal and unconstitutional and just wrong. And we need middle-class white people to go stand up for them, because it's coming to us next, but also just because they're our brothers and sisters. Okay, so that's how it works. Racial equity, that narrative, it's all about tracking and tracing. It's just an excuse. They're saying, oh, well, we want to make sure that we give to black people and to women and to natives. It's just a way for them to justify collecting all the data. And just capital, which Kaiser's involved in, they're big on this, and I have written some about it. I'm talking too much. Okay, environment, of course, you guys all know we're in Oklahoma. They're killing oil and gas on purpose. They're putting in all the electric vehicles. Francis Solar is Kaiser Francis, you know? He's a bad guy. And what was the other one? Public health, and we all saw how that goes. So that trifecta, racism, public health, environment, it's all about control. Who supports the transition? Everyone. Our government has been totally and completely infiltrated. Left, right, doesn't matter. Anyone who has money, I think, if you make, anyone who makes over $1 million, anyone who makes over $500,000 is involved, is, you know, and has an elected office, is probably in some way, wittingly or not, involved. Okay, so I think we have to educate them and say, and you call them out on their buzzwords. So Jamie Fowler, oh, he was at the license plate reader meeting, and what a snake. I said, you know, you're selling out the American people, and you're lying to the people of Tulsa. And he's like, oh. So you've got to call them out and say, you've used all the buzzwords, sustainability, innovation, da 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 da, and they'll be like, you know, they won't know what to do, but your smart fellow citizens will. So these are all the people that are involved. All your insurance companies, all of your hedge funds, your pension funds, they're trying, you know, Social Security invested in this. They already did it in California. They're using public investments to push ESG goals. These are the buzzwords, my top 10, but I have hundreds of them. Sustainable, resilient, equity, inclusive, innovative, collaborative, transparency, diversity, leadership, and impact. Leadership is an important one because we have leadership institutes all over, and that's about followership. It's the exact opposite. It's about teaching people to follow the corporate line. They're transferring this corporate model, which is actually sort of a military model, total quality management. They're transferring that to every aspect of our lives so that we can be measured and managed and then monetized through impact investing.
Will you just tell us what ESG is again?
Environmental, social, and governance goals. And so you can look up ESG credit score and you've already got one. They're just waiting to roll it out.
Everyone a slave to the globalists.
Yes, everyone's a slave to the globalists. And they're all tied to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Why? Because you have to have a veneer of legitimacy. Let me skip just to Tulsa. I didn't even get to impact investing, but impact investing is basically, they're gonna make money on social change, okay? And they're gonna do it by making big bets on, workforce development and changing people, but then also there are going to be these public-private partnerships where philanthropic funders supply the needs of government because government's still obliged to provide services, but the economy has been wrecked and so has the government's revenue. So here, let me defend government and say it's much better to have that devil than an unelected, unaccountable devil at a philanthropic institute. Okay, so they're going to make money. It's like by tracking impact. That's the measurable change, A to B. Were you a racist before and now you're not? Did you not recycle and now you do? Do we have fewer pedestrian deaths? And you see how it goes. They just make money on the spread, and really it does turn into just betting on it. Tulsa Smart City, it's for impact tracking. Okay, you can see these are, I just highlighted some of the things in our Smart City plan. Urban automation, automated vehicles, get ready to lose your vehicle. Connected vehicles, it's all on fiber optics, they want sensors everywhere. This is 2016. So all the 5G, it's for this. I mean, they want to radiate you and do all that, but it's really, they want the data. And they don't want you to drive, because then you could go talk to other people. They're setting up the districts here to keep you contained because they actually like this trial and error or pilot program method. So you set up one district of people and you surveil them totally. Tulsa Promise neighborhoods, I told you they do it to poor people first. Kendall Whittier and Eugene Fields. Total surveillance, generational. There's predictive profiling. So, and this might be a good way to wrap it up. When David was talking about the Bill of Rights, we should not be penalized or prevented from exercising, our sovereignty, by having to ask for permission to do things like drive or whatever. What the smart city model, what impact investing wants to do, how it works is by justifying investments now on the basis of savings later. Now that's all hypothetical, just like the models that came out of the Imperial College of London for the flatten the curve. It's bunk, okay? But here, this is how they sell it to voters, to politicians, to people who otherwise have some sense, but they're too busy to really pay attention and dig in. They say, ooh, you put a little in now and you're gonna get a lot back later. It's like the health insurance model. It is, it's a predictive risk management model. So all of our rights are gonna go away because through the social credit tracking, through the development of human capital profiles from womb to tomb based on Internet of Things, your kids, say they do a stupid search on the internet, it will never ever go away. And then they are profiled. And that is gonna go on, it's gonna go into this ledger of their life that has predictive value for impact investors. Okay, so, talk about, well, we have to get a license to drive. This is going to be, you're going to be stuck in your house if the algorithms think that you could be a danger to someone, yourself or others. And the value of a human life, they're always tabulating it. So they say a life lost, this is in our smart city plan. Every fatality, every traffic fatality costs $1 million or something. They don't care. They just want to justify it so that they can control it. And so this is what they're doing. Resilient Tulsa, it's just a measure of what? Preventative risk. So everything is going to be monitored. Tulsa Resetters, here's G.T. Bynum and George Kaiser. Kaiser says Tulsa is a beta city. That means it's a focus group, pilot program city. We've been used, and the kids in the public schools have really been used. I'll send this to Lori to share. This is my decode of the 10 buzzwords. I think those are really important. What can we do? I think there are many, many things. I keep coming back to what we can do is people have to know. Because there are some of us who know, but you really feel like you need many more people by your side if you're going to make a difference. So if you're fighting a mandate at work, you need a lot of people because the corporation doesn't really care about you as an individual, just like our society doesn't. So I firmly believe, and this is not satisfying to a lot of people, that you have to help people see the patterns for impact investment, which is basically you traumatize, then you set up a program that's going to fix it, and you make money, and you do it again, and you do it again. Problem, reaction, solution. Okay, so you look for this with the polls. That's a perfect example. And you teach people to know the patterns and the buzzwords. They are so easy. Have any of you followed me on Facebook to see my buzzwords? Then once you see them, you'll see them everywhere. And if that white paper has a buzzword in it, it's a New World Order program. It's very easy. So you stay away from any kind of legislation, any proposal that has the buzzwords. That's insulation and protection while we get our shit together. Okay, then I have a Take Back Oklahoma plan, which looks at we need to organize in states because I'm a firm believer in the Constitution, and I don't think that secession's a good idea. That'll get rid of Social Security and Medicare, and I think it would leave our friends and neighbors in California and New York who are good people in the dust, and I don't like that idea as an American. Okay, so I think we have to protect the Constitution, but cities are not powerful enough. I think you need states, and especially heartland states, where in Oklahoma, I met people from all over Oklahoma, and we have that mutual bond. Okay, we can say we're from Oklahoma. Stitt's a lousy governor. He's better on some things, but he's still selling us out to the corporations, okay? But we can say we are all Oklahomans, and guess what? We know some Kansans, and I think you have to get together in those states, and you have to get state legislators, state representatives, or senators, representatives, city councilors, and empower them and help them meet other people that are doing the same thing. Because if there is a silver lining, it is that this is a war, it's a banker's war, and it operates through narrative control. They like to control the language, they like to control the story, they like to keep people stupid. So we've got to bust that up, and we've got to stop using their language, and we've got to start trusting our guts, okay, and say, that doesn't seem right. Why is Phil Lakin saying that he'll just take care of your problem? Oh, I can't get through the city of Tulsa. I've called for 3 months. If you guys need to go, I understand. It's not going to offend me. When my neighbor says, I've been calling and no person will answer the phone, and Phil says, oh, I'll just take care of it for you. It's because they're automating the government. They're automating the city government. And he's just trying to keep you happy. So if you know the patterns, you can tell people and you can say, hell no, that's not right. And these people are afraid of exposure. Okay, so you unite, educate, unite as a state. I've got a whole task force list. We need attorneys to do forensic audits. You need to I think we need a whole PR campaign that posts the buzzwords everywhere. I think you've got to have people who are going to win middle America, corporate America, and get these lazy bones fired up, because they're the sort of, that's the group that I see that is not acting quickly enough.
Corporate employees, you mean?
Mm-hmm. I think you have poor people understand that there's something bad going on. I think veterans understand that there's something bad going on. I think retired people understand that there's something bad going on. I think moms, but we need the men. And the corporate men, but they've had to go by the rules to pay the bills, so I'm not blaming them. But I think we're gonna have to sort of give them the tools that they need too, and that might take a little optics manipulation, give them an excuse to do it so that they start pushing back against the corporations.
Hi, I want to make a suggestion. I think we've absorbed about all we can absorb.
Yes.
So what I would like for you to do is consider coming back with a battle plan.
Oh, sure. And I'll post these too.
Let's spend one evening discussing some 4 or 5 really concrete things we can do as individuals and as a group to start pushing back on these things.
I would be happy to. I'm so thankful to all of you for coming, because it really is. Mm-hmm.
All of the things you've been saying are true, but they were started back in 1992.
Yes.
This was initiated at the Earth Summit by the United Nations.
Yeah.
And everything you said is true, but we're way beyond that now to the killing fields. And that is where we are at, and people have to recognize that the telecoms have been systematically, when they put the 1996 Telecommunications Act into law, that was the first time that telecom and cell towers could supersede the health and the inalienable rights of humans, that the cell tower could go wherever you needed to transmit the signal, regardless if it hurt a person or not.
Yeah.
And now we are looking at people dying. They're already dying, so it's like we cannot just pull back and watch this whole thing happen. In California, in Ripon, California, the Wesson Elementary School had 1 Sprint phone tower in their playground. That was in 2016. By 2019, 8 third graders had severe cancers, 3 teachers, 2 toddlers in the neighborhood, and 1 other student. Okay, the parents marched down the school. The Sprint tower was taken down. That was a 4G tower. So already we are experiencing deaths. But right here in our own city, we are experiencing the 5G dilemma. The little school over on Miss Helen's, where you probably all know Miss Helen's School on Mingo.
Yes.
They have a 5G tower on their lawn. 3.4 microwatts per meter squared is cellular death. That school playground reads 58,000 microwatts where those children are playing. Now, the front door is 24,000 microwatts. The little school across the street is 17,000. 3.4 is cellular death. For your mitochondria, your DNA, your stem cells, your sperm, it goes on and on. And your DNA is very important because that's where cancer comes from.
Well, I think, and they're making tons of money off the cancer, right?
Okay, now I went to the health department 4 times about that school and said, you must shut that tower down. Those children are getting microwaved, literally microwaved. But not only there, the YMCA up on Garnett, I measured that 5G tower, and the pool is getting 30,000 microwatts, and when people are pulling up the parking lot, they're getting 48,000 microwatts, and every time you stop your car at a stop sign or a light where there is a 5G tower, you are getting 58,000 microwatts coming down on you. So this is already they are already killing us, and people are, what about these children? It's every school I just want to tell you one thing before I be quiet here for a minute, but let me just say this. The international firefighters have been well aware of this since 2004. They have been fighting cell towers on firehouses. Okay, they put this proclamation out last year. Have you noticed, this is international firefighters saying this, not Margie Alfonso. Have you noticed that there are now cell towers on top of and next to firehouses, police stations, and schools? Could it be that they are targeting?
Oh yeah.
Targeting.
Yes. Because then they're going to get the robots out.
Children.
Yes.
Policemen, firemen, and children for destruction through microwave radiation. It's time to fight back. Go on my website. You can see it all. I've got all the medical stuff, margiealfonso.com. I lost the race but won the war because I've got this information where you can all find it now, and you can go and see what's going on with everything. You've got to go and read the science blogs.
I think there are so many prongs to this, and the more you get people together, and the more you just say, here's the pattern.
It's way beyond.
Well, it is okay,
Yeah.
but we have to take. I think you used your areas of expertise, and if you take down the 5G, then the data doesn't run. The social credit scoring can't run. The blockchain data. We haven't even talked about digital economic zones. Okay.
Okay. Just to talk.
There are these. When one of the chips is taken out, I think that does have a very large impact, to use that word, on other things, right? And in the end, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I think our battle is going to be won not in this world. So what we've got to do is not evaluate whether it's hopeless or not, but we've just got to do what's right. I'm a Christian, so I think our battle is going to be won not in this world. So what we've got to do is not evaluate whether it's hopeless or not, but we've just got to do what's right. And if we you just do, and so we try to take these things out, and so what if we're not going to win it?
This lady back there got 4 towers taken down, and that is a miracle. But unfortunately, they did a bait and switch, and they're putting the exact microwave radiation on the lamp posts, that now they don't have to put the money into the towers. They can just go in everybody's neighborhood now and put it on your lamp post that is your street light.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk more about 5G. I want to get some other questions in as well, Margie. Thank you for the information, and please get in touch with Margie for her website. Laura's
Okay,
waiting in the
I just want to give everybody some hope, and that is that I got Julianne in touch with our legislators.
She did.
She has been a rock star educating them. Sherry Connolly is one of them, and there are many others. And so this is important that they get this information, okay, that they understand that the tentacles of the United Nations, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 are being implemented within our country and within our state and cities. So the next plan is we all have friends in many different states. And so what I do, I lived in Iowa, I lived in Delaware, I lived in California. Well, California is lost, hellhole California, I call it now. But what everybody can do is reach out to their people, and this video is going to be available. And so what we have to do is go outside our state, and truly we are an army right here. We are now armed with beautiful information. And so what our Congress and legislators need to know is that the tentacles of the United Nations and all these are in our bills, and they are living within our country, in our cities. So I'm just throwing this out there to you to take this video that is going to be available. When's it going to be available, Lori?
It'll be a few days.
In a few days, and then send it to your legislators, send it to your friends in other states that may be involved in politics and can get it to their legislators. And because we need to ignite the revolution in this country. And I just always have to give a shout out to my dear sweet mom, BJ Benbow. For 30 years, she was sounding the alarm. And you guys know her. And she was sounding the alarm, but it's really hard to wake people up. But now we are in the web.
Yeah.
And so I hope we can get out.
8:30, which is normally our wrap-up time. Let's take 3 questions. Yeah. David, you've got the mic, so you pick out the 3 questions. It's about all we have time for.
I want to, first of all, encourage you not to take the stance to make an enemy of a city council person. I've been just speaking to some recently, and for a lack of knowledge, we perish. For ignorance, we perish. And I'm finding out there are some genuine hearts that don't know, just like we didn't know, trying to understand. And we've been with state legislators as well. I also want to bring encouragement. I'm the lady that got the Resolution 550 drafted, saved our national anthem, and got the last verse finally recognized. In order to do that, thank you. I'm not looking for your applause, but thank you. In order to do that, it was just a lot of hard work, taking it on, and the perseverance of not giving up. I'm not an elected official. And I was working on Resolution 550 with Louis Gomart and some of the people here from our state and others at the time that COVID hit everything and shut the Capitol down. But I had discovered in 1992 the SDGs resolution of the UN before 9/11 to put real ID in place. And I found out from my overseas connections what was going on with the offices that were putting together the Real ID. Homeland Security hired 18 men born in Damascus, Syria, 5 of which were carrying green cards, not even United States citizens. They developed that ID on the back of your driver's license and your e-passport, and it's being monitored by Morph USA, which was appointed by the World Bank, and it is being monitored by Saffron, owned by Islamic Council on American Islamic Relations and Muslim Brotherhood. It was also being utilized by the Russian security, and now it is being read by the United Arab Emirates, one of our greatest enemies since 9/11, and the senior computers housing it are in no other place but Hong Kong. So we're a lot farther down the road in the power of these government entities and these corporate entities than what we've even discussed today. And I believe that has an awful lot to do with the SMART plan for Tulsa and other places. Yeah. But it can be beat, and I want to give you the encouragement, don't give up. You don't have to be an elected official. If more people would just put it in the footwork and put your hand to it, we'd get a whole lot more done.
Well, and it just, reputation capital is the currency of this new world order. It is your brand. So it's what people think of you. It's your, how many stars you get, how your Facebook profile looks. So, we can take down George Kaiser's reputation capital, right? And we can sort of redefine what reputation capital means. Like, I think we do have that power if we're getting together and talking with each other and watching people who are determined, just go with it. Because really, we are dealing with cowards. You don't do this to other people unless you're a coward.
Could you address the timeline?
Well, I just looked at a 2014 document that wants to have a total world simulation digital twin online by 2023. So I think that they're speeding things up very quickly. A lot of the social, cultural things, like with the transgenderism, I have been very surprised at how fast that's moved. So I think the next 2 years are really going to make or break this country. I think we've got to get it going. At least a really good start within 2 years. And it's not just about getting a new president in office. It's about scaring the legislators that are rotten and scaring them. Like, you're going to have to answer to the American people. And that's an idea that's very foreign to me, to many of you. But, we're going to have to form shadow governments, or opposition governments, I think, and say, Karen Keith is not the county commissioner or whatever she is. She works for George Kaiser. She's been with all these guys. Yeah, so we need to we step up, we scare them, and then the ones who can be reason with them and support them. Even if you don't agree with everything that they believe, support them. But I think 2 years.
Randy?
Okay, can you hear me all right? Yeah, just a great suggestion is, we do elections, and it's not about every 2 years doing something. It's coming together next week or next month with 9/12 and having it task organized before we get together. So, Margie's group can be working already and say, here's where we're going to go. Here's who we'll contact about certain things. And I think we could really accelerate what we're doing if we can, if we can get you an executive assistant, Julianne, that'd be a great thing, right? And then learning, what a private member association can do, because that's private law. You're not trapped under public law, 14th Amendment, when our sovereignty's been stolen in so many ways, right? I mean, we've got to understand how to operate, go into court. How do you take bonds of certain executives? Because you can go after their bond for not doing their job, and that'll scare the hell out of them when you know how to do that. There's a group on Telegram that is really tops at that. So I think if we could work on this next meeting, coming together with some of these solution groups to advance together, we could accomplish a lot, much quicker.
Action items. One more question up here, and then we're going to wrap it up.
I'm not clear on what's the carrot for the corporations to implement these ESG scores? Because that's what I don't see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is not going to make money. I think that let me just be totally forthright here and say, I think it's a dark satanic agenda that's just about manipulation and control. Okay? Yes, it's about stealing, killing, and destroying. So that's an ultimate motive. But then
what drives that?
Part of it's social conformism, but then also there is the possibility of making big bets as human beings are sort of put together in EFTs, exchange traded funds, where they group a bunch of stocks together and then trade those on an equities market, if I'm using the right terms there. They're going to do that with people, and it's going to be like fantasy football where it's just for fun.
But every major corporation now has an ESG score. If you have any stocks, you can find your stock's ESG score.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's the drive?
I've got a video for you to watch, and it was actually made by my son. I'm going to plug him. Go to YouTube, look up Good Kid Productions, and their video that says, "Why does Facebook pretend to be racist?"
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, and it's only a 7-minute video. It's my son who's on there, but they have actually detailed exactly how it's working in a 7-minute, 8-minute video, and it will explain the answer to your question.
And you go to what I go to?
Good Kid Productions on YouTube, and look for "Why does Facebook pretend to be racist?"
I want to thank all of you for being here. There's so much material and ground to cover. Thank you for staying late and staying long. Thank you for being engaged. Thank you for taking this information, and especially let's give it for Julianne. Thank you for coming and sharing with us.
I hope that went together okay.